The day of my wife's funeral was grey and cold, the kind of day that seeps into your bones and makes you question everything you thought you knew about life, love, and loyalty. I stood by her grave, numb, my hands clenched in my pockets as the priest spoke words that felt hollow. My son, Daniel, stood beside me, his face a mask of grief. His wife, Marissa, clung to his arm, her eyes dry and sharp, already scanning the crowd for opportunity. If you enjoy powerful stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more. After the service, the house filled with people, neighbors, distant relatives, old friends. They offered condolences, casseroles, and awkward hugs. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, barely hearing their words. My wife, Evelyn, had been the center of my world for 30 years. Now she was gone, and I was left with silence. It didn't take long for the vultures to circle. Marissa cornered me in the study, her voice syrupy sweet. "Dad, I know this is hard, but Evelyn would have wanted her jewelry to stay in the family. I'll keep it safe for you." Before I could answer, she was gone, the velvet box of diamonds and pearls clutched in her hand. Daniel followed, his eyes apologetic but helpless. I watched them leave, feeling humiliated and forgotten. All I got was an old battered trunk. It sat in the corner of the attic, covered in dust, the lock rusted shut. There was no note, no explanation, just my name scrawled on a yellowed tag in Evelyn's handwriting. I stared at it for days, too tired to care, too angry to cry. But the emptiness gnawed at me. I needed answers. I needed something, anything, to make sense of the life I'd lost. Late one night, I dragged the trunk into the living room. I found a crowbar in the garage and forced the lock open, the metal screeching in protest. Inside, I found a stack of letters, each one addressed to me in Evelyn's familiar script. The very first line made my heart stop. "You were never supposed to be her only husband." My hands shook as I opened the first letter. The paper was thin, the ink faded. But the words were clear. Evelyn wrote of a life before me, a secret marriage, another man, children I'd never met. She described a world I'd never known, a love she'd never spoken of. I read on, each letter revealing more. She'd kept this secret for decades, hiding it behind smiles and gentle lies. She'd built a life with me, but she'd never let go of the past. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and lost. Was our entire marriage a lie, or was I the secret all along? As I reached the bottom of the trunk, I found a photograph. Evelyn, younger, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. 2 children clung to her skirt, their faces blurred with age. On the back, she'd written, "For the family I could never keep, I spent the next day in a fog, replaying every moment of our marriage." The late-night phone calls, the business trips, the way she'd flinch when I asked about her childhood. I'd thought she was shy, private. Now I saw the truth. She was hiding. I called Daniel, my voice shaking. "Did you know about this? Did your mother ever mention another family?" He was silent for a long time. "No, Dad, never." "Are you sure?" I told him about the letters, the photograph. He sounded scared. "What are you going to do?" I didn't have an answer. That night, Marissa called. Her voice was cold. "I hope you're not planning to contest the will. The jewelry is mine now." Evelyn wanted it that way. I hung up, anger burning in my chest. I realized I'd spent my whole life letting other people take what mattered most to me. Not anymore. I barely slept that night. I sat in the living room, the trunk open at my feet, Evelyn's letters spread across the coffee table. The house was silent, except for the ticking of the old clock on the mantel. I read each letter again, searching for answers, for some hint that this was all a mistake. But the truth was there, in her careful handwriting. She wrote about her first husband, Charles, a man she'd married young, before she ever met me. She wrote about their children, a boy and a girl, and the life they'd built together in a small town I'd never heard of. She wrote about the day she left them, the guilt that haunted her, the fear that they'd never forgive her. She wrote about me too. About the day we met, the way I made her feel safe, the hope I gave her for a new beginning. But even as she built a life with me, she never stopped loving the family she'd left behind. I felt like a fool, 30 years of marriage, and I'd never really known the woman I loved. As dawn broke, I found a final envelope at the bottom of the trunk. It was heavier than the others, sealed with red wax. My name was written on the front, underlined twice. Inside was a key and a note. If you're reading this, I'm gone. The truth is in the place where I first told you I loved you. Forgive me. I stared at the key, my mind racing, the place where she first told me she loved me. I closed my eyes, searching my memory. It was the old lake house, the one we'd visited every summer before Daniel was born. We hadn't been there in years. After Evelyn got sick, we stopped going. I'd always thought it was too painful for her. Now I wondered if she was hiding something else. I packed a bag, grabbed the key, and drove north. The road was empty, the sky heavy with clouds. I replayed every moment of our life together, every smile, every argument, every secret glance. I wondered how much of it was real. The lake house was just as I remembered, weathered wood, peeling paint, the dock stretching out over the water. I unlocked the door, the hinges creaking in protest. The air inside was thick with dust and memories. In the bedroom, I found a small safe hidden behind a loose board in the closet. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a stack of documents, birth certificates, marriage licenses, old photographs. There was also a letter addressed to me. I opened it, my hands shaking. Richard, if you're reading this, you know the truth. I never meant to hurt you. I loved you, but I could never escape my past. If you want answers, you'll find them in the town where I was born. Ask for Margaret. She knows everything. Forgive me, Evelyn. I sat on the edge of the bed, the letter in my lap. I felt anger, grief, and a strange sense of relief. At least now I had a direction, a way to find the truth. I called Daniel, told him I'd be gone for a few days. He sounded worried. But I could hear Marissa in the background, her voice sharp. Don't let him do anything stupid. The jewelry is ours now. I hung up, my resolve hardening. I'd spent my life letting other people take what mattered most to me. Not anymore. I drove to the town Evelyn had named in her letter. It was small, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. I asked for Margaret at the diner. The waitress's eyes widened. You must be Richard. She's been waiting for you. Margaret was an older woman, bisonbon, her hair silver, her eyes sharp and kind. She invited me into her home, poured me a cup of tea, and listened as I told her everything. She nodded, her face sad. Evelyn was my best friend. She loved you, Richard. but she was always running from her past. Charles was a good man, but he was broken after she left. The children, they never understood. When Evelyn met you, she wanted a new life, but she could never let go of the old one. She handed me a photograph. Evelyn, Charles, and their children standing in front of a white house. "They're still here, Richard. If you want to meet them, I can arrange it." I hesitated, fear and curiosity warring inside me. Did I want to meet the family my wife had left behind? Did I want to know the whole truth? I sat in Margaret's living room, the photograph trembling in my hands. Evelyn's face smiled up at me, younger, freer, standing beside a man I'd never met, and two children who looked nothing like my son. The room was filled with the scent of old books and lemon polish, the ticking of a grandfather clock marking each second as I tried to process what I was about to do. Margaret watched me, her eyes gentle but unflinching. "They deserve to know, Richard, and so do you." I nodded, my voice barely a whisper. "Set it up." She made a call, her words quiet and careful. "He's here. He just wants to talk." She hung up and looked at me. "They'll meet you at the park. It's neutral ground." I drove to the park, my heart pounding. The sky was overcast, the air heavy with the promise of rain. I sat on a bench, Evelyn's letters in my pocket, the photograph clutched in my hand. A man and a woman approached, both in their 30s. The man was tall, with Evelyn's eyes. The woman had her smile. They stopped a few feet away, uncertainty and suspicion in their faces. "I'm Richard," I said, my voice shaking. "Evelyn was my wife." The man's jaw tightened. "She was our mother until she left." The woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Why are you here? What do you want from us?" I took a deep breath. "I just want the truth. I want to understand who she really was, and I want you to have these." I handed them the letters and the photograph. They read in silence, the tension thick between us. Finally, the man, David, looked up, tears in his eyes. "She wrote to you. She never wrote to us." The woman, Claire, shook her head. "We spent our whole lives wondering why she left. Now we know she was living another life." I felt a wave of guilt and a anger. I didn't know. "She never told me about you. I found out after she died." David's voice was bitter. She was good at secrets. We sat in silence, the weight of Evelyn's choices pressing down on us. I realized that my pain was only half the story. Theirs was the other half. Suddenly, Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her face going pale. "It's Marissa. She says you're trying to steal the jewelry. She's threatening to call the police." I clenched my fists. Let her try. I have nothing left to lose. I returned to Margaret's house, my mind racing. Marissa was escalating. She wanted to make sure I stayed out of her way. I called Daniel, my son, and told him everything. About Evelyn's secret family, the letters, the meeting in the park. He was silent for a long time. "Dad, I don't know what to say. I feel like I never knew Mum at all." I sighed. None of us did. That night, I received a letter from Marissa's lawyer. She was contesting the will, claiming I was mentally unfit, that I'd fabricated the letters to steal the jewelry for myself. I stared at the letter, rage and humiliation burning in my chest. I realized that Marissa was willing to destroy me to get what she wanted. I called my own lawyer, Tom, and sent him copies of everything. Evelyn's letters, the photograph, the safe deposit box key, the will. "I want to fight this," I said. "I want the truth to come out." Tom's voice was calm but firm. "We'll fight, but you need to be ready. This will get ugly." The next weeks were a blur of court dates, depositions, and whispered accusations. Marissa painted me as a bitter old man, desperate for attention. She paraded witnesses who claimed I'd always been jealous of her relationship with Evelyn. But I had the letters, I had the truth, and I had the support of Evelyn's other family, who agreed to testify on my behalf. The trial was brutal. Every lie, every moment of doubt was dragged into the light. I watched as Marissa's mask slipped, her greed and cruelty exposed for everyone to see. On the final day, the judge called for a recess. As I stepped into the hallway, Marissa cornered me, her eyes blazing. "You think you've won? You think anyone will believe you over me?" I met her gaze, steady and unafraid. "I don't care what you believe. I care about the truth." The courthouse was a cold, echoing place, every footstep magnified, every whisper a threat. I sat at the plaintiff's table, Tom beside me, the stack of Evelyn's letters and documents neatly arranged. Across the aisle, Marissa sat with her lawyer, her face a mask of righteous indignation. Daniel was there too, torn between loyalty and truth, his eyes never quite meeting mine. The judge entered, her gavel sharp as thunder. "Let's proceed." Tom opened with the story of the trunk, the letters, the secret family. He spoke with quiet authority, letting the evidence speak for itself. He read passages from Evelyn's letters, her handwriting trembling with regret and longing. The courtroom was silent, every ear straining to catch each word. Marissa's lawyer countered with venom. These letters could be forgeries. My client was the only one Evelyn trusted. She left the jewelry to Marissa because she knew her husband was unstable. I clenched my fists, anger burning in my chest. But Tom was ready. He called Margaret to the stand. She spoke of Evelyn's past, her love for both families, her fear and her hope. She handed over the photograph, the safe deposit box key, the birth certificates. Then Tom called David and Claire, Evelyn's other children. They spoke of the mother who vanished, the pain of abandonment, the shock of learning she'd built a new life. Their voices were raw, their grief real. The judge listened, her face unreadable. Marissa grew more desperate. She accused me of manipulating the other family, of inventing the whole story to steal the inheritance. She broke down on the stand, tears streaming down her face. "He's lying. He's always been jealous of me." But the evidence was overwhelming. The letters, the documents, the testimony of people who had nothing to gain. Even Daniel at last stood up. "I believe my father. I believe my mother loved us all. But she was afraid. Marissa, you're the one who's lying." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Marissa's lawyer tried to regain control, but the damage was done. During a break, I found Daniel in the hallway. He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have believed you from the start." I hugged him, the years of pain and misunderstanding melting away. "We're family. That's all that matters now." The judge returned, her verdict swift and clear. The jewelry and estate will be divided equally among all of Evelyn's children. The letters and documents are genuine. Marissa's claims are dismissed. Marissa collapsed in her chair, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. She screamed at me as the bailiff led her out. "You ruined everything. You'll pay for this." I watched her go, a strange sense of peace settling over me. I hadn't wanted revenge. I'd wanted the truth. But sometimes, the truth is the best revenge of all. After the trial, Margaret invited me, David, and Claire to her home. We sat around her kitchen table, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, but as I left that night, a car followed me through the dark streets. I watched it in the rearview mirror, my heart pounding. Was Marissa behind the wheel? Or was it someone else, still angry, still hungry for what Evelyn left behind? I drove home, every shadow a threat, every turn a test. But when I pulled into my driveway, the car kept going, disappearing into the night. I stood in the quiet, the weight of the past finally lifting. Inside, I found a letter on the kitchen table. It was from Evelyn, written years ago, never mailed, Richard. If you ever find this, know that I loved you. I loved our life. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, but you gave me something I never had before. Peace. Please forgive me, Evelyn. I sat down, the letter trembling in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I realized that forgiveness was the final gift she'd left me. The days after the trial felt surreal. The story of Evelyn's double life spread through the town like wildfire. Some people looked at me with pity, others with curiosity, but most with a new respect. I was no longer just the quiet widower. I was the man who had uncovered a secret that had been buried for decades. Daniel moved back home for a while, helping me sort through the last of Evelyn's things. We found more letters, more photographs, evidence of a life lived in fragments, love scattered across two families. Each discovery brought a fresh wave of grief, but also a strange sense of closure. One afternoon, as we packed up the attic, Daniel found a small box tucked behind a beam. Inside was a locket engraved with the initials of all Evelyn's children: Daniel, David, Claire. On the back, a single word: forgive. Daniel stared at it, tears in his eyes. She wanted us to find each other, Dad, even if she couldn't do it herself. I nodded, my throat tight. She did. And we did. That evening, I received a call from Claire. Her voice was hesitant. "Richard, there's something you should know. Marissa's been contacting us. She's trying to turn us against you, saying you manipulated everything." I sighed, anger and exhaustion mingling. "Don't listen to her. She's lost, Claire. She can't hurt us anymore." But Marissa wasn't done. She filed an appeal, claiming new evidence, new witnesses. She spread rumors online, painting me as a fraud, a thief, a man who'd destroyed his own family for money. The local paper ran a story, quoting anonymous sources who claimed I'd forged the letters, bribed the judge, even threatened witnesses. The stress took its toll. I lost sleep, lost weight, lost patience, but I refused to back down. I met with Tom, my lawyer, and we prepared for another fight. This time I was ready. The day of the appeal, the courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing. Inside, Marissa's new lawyer was aggressive, attacking every piece of evidence, every witness. But Tom was better. He presented new forensic analysis of the letters, proving they were written decades apart in Evelyn's hand. He called experts who testified to the authenticity of the documents, the photographs, the locket. And then, in a move that stunned everyone, Tom called Marissa to the stand. Under oath, Marissa's story unraveled. She contradicted herself, grew flustered, lashed out at the judge. Finally, in a moment of desperation, she admitted to forging one of the new letters she'd submitted as evidence. The courtroom gasped. The judge's gavel came down hard. This appeal is dismissed. Ms. Marissa, you are hereby charged with perjury and fraud. Marissa broke down, sobbing as she was led away. I felt no triumph, only relief. The nightmare was finally over. After the verdict, Daniel, David, and Claire embraced me outside the courthouse. "We're a family now," David said. "No more secrets, no more lies." I smiled, the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. No more. We celebrated quietly, just the four of us at Margaret's house. We shared stories, laughter, and tears. For the first time, I felt whole, not because I'd won, but because I'd survived. Because I'd found the truth, and with it, a new beginning. That night, as I walked home under the stars, I thought of Evelyn. I thought of the pain she'd carried, the choices she'd made, the love she'd tried to give. I forgave her, finally, completely, and I forgave myself. The weeks after the final verdict felt like waking from a long, dark dream. The town's gossip faded, replaced by a quiet respect. People who once whispered behind my back now nodded in greeting, some even stopping to apologize for believing Marissa's lies. I accepted their words, but I didn't need their approval anymore. I had found my own peace. Daniel, David, and Claire became a real family. We met every Sunday for dinner, sometimes at my house, sometimes at Margaret's. The laughter was real, the stories honest. We grieved for Evelyn, but we also celebrated her memory. The good and the bad, the love and the pain. One Sunday, as we cleared the table, Claire handed me a small envelope. "I found this in Mom's things. I think it's for you." I opened it, my hand steady. Inside was a single sheet of paper, Evelyn's handwriting looping across the page. "Richard, if you're reading this, it means you found the truth. I'm sorry for the secrets, for the pain. I loved you. I loved all my children. I hope you can forgive me, and I hope you can help them forgive me too. Thank you for giving me a second chance at happiness. Evelyn." I read the letter aloud. When I finished, there were tears in every eye, but also a sense of closure. The past was finally at rest. That night, as I sat on the porch, Daniel joined me. He looked at the stars, his voice quiet. "Do you ever wish you'd never found out?" I shook my head. No, the truth hurt, but it set us free. We're stronger now, we're honest. That's what matters. He nodded, a small smile on his lips. "I'm proud of you, Dad." A few weeks later, I received a letter from Marissa's lawyer. She was serving time for perjury and fraud, but she wanted to apologize. Her words were bitter, but there was a hint of regret. "I lost everything because I couldn't let go. I hope you find peace." I did. I forgave her too, holding on to anger you'd only poison what I'd rebuilt. I started volunteering at a local support group for people blindsided by family secrets. I shared my story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. I watched as others found the courage to face their own truths, to forgive, to move forward. One evening, as I was locking up the house, I found a stranger waiting at my gate. He was older, with Evelyn's eyes. He introduced himself as Charles, Evelyn's first husband. "I heard what happened," he said. "I wanted to thank you for giving her happiness, for bringing our children back together." We shook hands, two men bound by love and loss, by forgiveness and the passage of time. The years passed, the pain faded, replaced by gratitude. I watched Daniel, David, and Claire build their own families, their own lives. I became a grandfather, a mentor, a friend. Every so often, I'd open the old trunk, reread Evelyn's letters, and remember the woman who changed my life twice, once with her love, and once with her secrets. I learned that revenge isn't always about hurting those who hurt you. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your story, your dignity, your peace. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, loving deeply, and never letting the past define you. As the sun set on another Sunday, I sat on the porch, surrounded by family, laughter, and the quiet certainty that I had survived the storm. I was no longer haunted by secrets. I was free.